There's a moment we've all experienced. You speak your truth, and the room goes silent. You see it in their eyes, that mixture of surprise, judgment, and perhaps even disgust. Your stomach tightens, your throat constricts, and in that moment, a voice inside whispers, "You've gone too far. Now, they won't like you." What if I told you this moment, this precise moment of social rejection, might be the doorway to your authentic life? Think about it. How many decisions did you make this week based on the invisible calculus of approval? The opinions you censored, the clothes you chose, the opportunities you declined because they might make you seem too much or not enough. We live in a prison constructed of other people's opinions, yet we're the ones who built every wall, brick by brick. We're the ones who voluntarily patrol its boundaries, never testing the bars to see if they're even real. But what terrifies us more than being rejected? Being seen, truly seen, for who we are. Because being authentic means being vulnerable to judgment. It means standing alone when the crowd moves in the opposite direction. What would your life look like if you stopped organizing it around being liked? What conversations would you have? What boundaries would you set? What dreams would you finally admit to having? The cost of being liked by everyone is nothing less than your soul. And today, we're going to explore why the courage to be disliked might be the most profound act of self-love you'll ever undertake. The pattern starts innocently enough. As children, we discover quickly that certain behaviors bring connection, while others lead to isolation. Smile, and mom smiles back. Cry too loudly. Express anger too intensely. Need too much. And the love withdraws. By adulthood, this becomes a sophisticated algorithm running in our subconscious. We've learned to scan rooms, read micro-expressions, and shapeshift accordingly. Always calculating, who do I need to be right now to be accepted? But this constant performance extracts a devastating toll. Research shows approval-seeking behaviors correlate directly with increased anxiety, depression, and a profound sense of emptiness. Why? Because while everyone applauds the performance, no one sees the performer. Consider your most exhausting relationships. Aren't they the ones where you walk on eggshells, constantly monitoring your words, where authentic expression feels impossible? That exhaustion isn't just emotional. It's your life force draining away with each unspoken truth. Who gets angry when you grow, when you set boundaries, when you express needs? These relationships expose the price of your approval addiction. The most heartbreaking consequence is that you become a stranger to yourself. When was the last time you asked what you want, without calculating its social cost? Many of us can't remember. We've spent so long performing that the line between the mask and the face has blurred beyond recognition. Drop in the comments if you've ever felt the physical exhaustion that comes from pretending to be someone you're not. This eternal human struggle was perhaps best articulated by Japanese philosopher Ichiro Kishimi and his mentor Takamori Koga, who built upon Alfred Adler's revolutionary ideas in their work, The Courage to be Disliked. Unlike Freud, who believed we're prisoners of our past, Adler proposed something radical. We're driven not by past trauma, but by our current goals. And one of humanity's most destructive goals, the pursuit of universal approval. Adler identified a fundamental truth. All problems are relationship problems. But the relationship that suffers most from approval seeking isn't with others. It's with yourself. When you organize your life around avoiding disapproval, you commit a form of self-abandonment. Consider the ancient Japanese concept of hon and tatamai, the contrast between one's true feelings and the behavior one displays in public. Every culture acknowledges this division, but few recognize how deadly it becomes when the gap widens too far. This division creates what Carl Jung called the shadow, the parts of ourselves we hide not just from others, but from our own consciousness. Jung warned, Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. The approval seeker's life feels like fate precisely because they've buried their authentic desires so deeply that their own choices seem mysterious, even to themselves. They drift through life, following invisible, crowd-sourced rules, mistaking compliance for choice. Think of water in a river. When it flows without obstruction, it possesses power, clarity, and purpose. But when dammed up and diverted into unnatural channels, it stagnates. Your authentic self works the same way. Redirected energy doesn't disappear. It transforms into anxiety, resentment, and that peculiar modern ailment, a sense of emptiness amid abundance. This brings us to the ancient concept of ethos, living in alignment with one's deepest values regardless of external judgment. The Greeks understood that respect without authenticity is spiritually worthless. They prized parrhesia, fearless speech, as the hallmark of a life well lived. The path forward isn't about becoming someone new. It's about having the courage to be who you already are, beneath the careful performance. As Kishimi writes, the courage to be happy also includes the courage to be disliked. The fundamental challenge of authentic living isn't understanding what to do. It's finding the courage to do it, despite the consequences. Let's examine the invisible forces that keep the approval trap in place. First, we must recognize the validator, that archetypal figure in our lives who has assumed the power to confirm our worth. This might be a critical parent whose voice still echoes in your head, a romantic partner whose attention you constantly seek, the social media audience whose likes and comments have become your emotional barometer. The validator's power comes from a psychological sleight of hand. You've handed them the authority to determine your value, an authority that was never theirs to hold. This surrender happens so subtly, you rarely notice it. But suddenly you find yourself performing for an audience you never consciously invited to the show. What will they think? This question haunts the approval seeker, but examine it closely. Who exactly is they? Is it a specific person, a vague collective of acquaintances, or perhaps, and this is crucial, it's just an internalized projection of judgment that may not even exist outside your mind? Consider this paradox. Most people are too concerned with how they're being perceived to deeply judge you. While you worry about their opinion, they're worrying about yours. It's a hall of mirrors where everyone feels observed, but few are truly seeing. Let's talk about an uncomfortable truth. Being disliked is inevitable for anyone living authentically. Not because authenticity is offensive, but because your authentic self will naturally resonate with some people and clash with others. This isn't a design flaw in human relationships, it's a feature. When someone dislikes you for maintaining a boundary, they're not rejecting you. They're rejecting the death of their convenience. When someone criticizes you for pursuing an unconventional path, they're not rejecting your choices. They're protecting their justification for not making similar choices. You owe no explanation for your authenticity. This is your first taste of freedom. The approval trap has a powerful reinforcement mechanism, occasional success. Sometimes your performance does win approval, and that intermittent reward is more addictive than consistent validation. Like a slot machine, the unpredictability keeps you pulling the lever, hoping for the dopamine hit of acceptance. But authentic living operates on a different reward system entirely. Instead of the quick hit of external validation, it offers something more sustainable: congruence. Congruence is that sensation of inner alignment when your outer actions match your inner values. It doesn't spike as high as validation on the pleasure scale, but it doesn't crash either. It builds gradually into a stable foundation of self-trust. You owe no explanation for your authenticity. This isn't just a statement, it's a reclamation of power. The journey toward authentic living isn't about dramatic rebellion. It begins with small moments of truth. Can you say no to an invitation without inventing an excuse? Can you express an unpopular opinion in a conversation without softening it? Can you make a choice that disappoints someone else but honors your needs? Each of these small acts builds what psychologists call self-efficacy, your belief in your ability to influence your own life. With each authentic choice, regardless of outcome, you strengthen the muscle of self-trust. You begin to recognize that disapproval is survivable, that conflict doesn't mean catastrophe, that the sky doesn't fall when someone doesn't like you. You owe no explanation for your authenticity. This is the mantra that will carry you through the discomfort. The first milestone of transformation isn't freedom from the desire for approval. It's consciousness about the pattern. Notice when you're shape-shifting. Notice the physical sensation of holding back your truth. Notice the exhaustion that follows a social performance. This awareness itself begins to dissolve the pattern's power. Let's confront the identity you've constructed. The good person who never rocks the boat. The team player who puts everyone else first. The peacekeeper who smooths all conflicts. The chameleon who fits perfectly in every environment. These identities aren't evil. They're survival mechanisms that once served you, but they've outlived their usefulness, and now they're simply elaborate cages. Who would you be without these identities? This question terrifies because it opens into emptiness. If you're not the person who anticipates and meets others' needs, who are you? If you're not constantly monitoring for approval, what would occupy that massive cognitive space? The death of the people-pleaser identity feels like actual death. Your brain processes identity threat in the same regions it processes physical danger. This explains the visceral fear that arises when you consider disappointing others. It's not rational, it's primal. Ask yourself, who benefits from your fear of disapproval? Who in your life would be inconvenienced by your authenticity? Whose comfort depends on your discomfort? Now the harder question, what have you gained from this pattern? Perhaps avoiding conflict, perhaps maintaining relationships that would otherwise dissolve, perhaps protection from the vulnerability of being truly seen. These benefits are real, but are they worth the price of your authenticity? You owe no explanation for your authenticity. This truth becomes more powerful each time we return to it. The most painful realization in this journey is that some relationships won't survive your transformation. Some connections exist precisely because of your willingness to contort yourself. These relationships aren't based on who you are, but on what you provide. Emotional labor, validation, or simply the comfort of compliance. When the performer stops performing, audiences who came only for the show will leave. This departure isn't a failure, it's clarification. Who has earned the right to your authentic self? Who has demonstrated they can hold your truth with care? Who loves the real you, not just what you can do for them? The soul punch truth is this: living for approval isn't noble self-sacrifice, it's slow spiritual suicide. Every time you swallow your truth to be accepted, a piece of your vitality dies. The tragedy isn't that others might reject you, it's that you've already rejected yourself. Return to that moment we started with, the silence after speaking your truth. What if, instead of fear, you felt peace? Not because everyone suddenly agrees with you, but because their agreement is no longer the point. The paradox of authenticity is that when you stop performing for approval, you often receive something better: respect. Not universal approval, that was always an illusion, but genuine connection with those who value you for your authentic self, not your performance. The energy you reclaim from abandoning approval seeking is staggering. Imagine redirecting all that mental calculus toward creativity, purpose, or meaningful connection. The mental bandwidth consumed by constant self-monitoring could power an entirely different life. Those who've made this journey report something unexpected. Disapproval loses its sting. When someone dislikes your authentic expression, it no longer feels like a judgment on your worth. It's simply information about compatibility. Not everyone is meant to resonate with your particular frequency, and that's not just okay, it's necessary. Remember, depth of connection, not breadth of approval, creates fulfillment. 5 people who know and accept your authentic self provide more nourishment than 500 who applaud your performance. The path isn't perfect or linear. There will be moments of backsliding, of people-pleasing, of seeking the old familiar validation. But each time you choose authenticity over approval, the pathway strengthens. The discomfort diminishes, the freedom expands. You owe no explanation for your authenticity. 3rd time's the charm. This truth now belongs to you. Drop in the comments. I release the need to be liked by everyone. This isn't just a statement. It's your declaration of independence from the approval trap. If this exploration of authentic living resonated with you, we're just beginning the journey together. Subscribe to join a community of people committed to living from their core truth rather than for external validation. In our next video, we'll explore the practical application of authentic living. Boundary setting without guilt. Because once you've found the courage to be disliked, you need the tools to maintain your authenticity in a world that prefers your compliance. This transformation isn't a one-time event. It's a practice, a daily choice, a reclamation of power that happens one authentic moment at a time. And I'm committed to providing the insights, tools, and support you need for every step of that journey. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any part of this exploration into what it means to live a life directed from within rather than imposed from without. In the end, the courage to be disliked isn't about becoming someone different. It's about returning to who you've always been beneath the layers of adaptation and performance. Consider this. On your deathbed, will you regret the disapproval you received or the authenticity you never expressed? Will you mourn the people who misunderstood you or the self you abandoned to be understood? We come into this world as pure expression, unfiltered and true. We leave this world alone, regardless of how many approved of our journey. What happens in between? That's your one wild and precious life. The next time you feel the familiar tightening of fear when your authentic self risks emerging, remember that discomfort is the growing pain of your spirit expanding beyond old constraints. It's the sensation of becoming more fully alive. Being disliked isn't the worst thing that can happen to you. The worst thing is never being known, never being seen, never experiencing the profound relief of saying, "This is who I am," and finding it is enough. Your authentic voice matters not because everyone will celebrate it, but because it is irreplaceably yours. And in a world full of echoes, that original note is your only true offering.